Οι εργάτες του Ηρακλή ή η αυτοψία του Φρενίχου. 5 εργάτες τοποθετούν τα θεμέλια του θεάτρου της επόμενης χιλιετίας. Καθώς ετοιμάζονται να ρίξουν την πέτρα του τσιμέντου, τους κατατρέχει το φάντασμα του Φρενίχου, ενός από τους πρώτους τραγικούς ποιητές και θεμελιωτές της τραγωδίας. Το πνεύμα του Ηρακλή παλεύει εναντίον όλων των στοιχείων που μετατρέπουν το μάρμαρο σε ασβέστη και λίπασμα και τα κείμενα σε σκουπίδια. Αυτή υπήρξε η τύχη πολλών έργων αρχαιοελληνικού δράματος και πολύ πιθανά αυτά που χάθηκαν ή ανακυκλώθηκαν να είναι πολύ περισσότερα από όσα τελικά διεσώθηκαν. Λόγω της φυτικής τους προέλευσης, οι αρχαίοι πάπυροι πολύ συχνά χρησιμεύσαν ως λιπάσματα σε άγωνα εδάφη και πολλά από τα υπέροχα μαρμάρινα αγάλματα των αρχαίων Ελλήνων κατέληξαν σε ασβεστοκαμίνους για να γίνουν είτε λιπάσματα για τις διάφορες καλλιέργειες, είτε ασβέστης για τις οικοδομικές κατασκευές. Σε αυτό το έργο ο Ηρακλής παλεύει εναντίον του χρόνου, της λύθης, της εγκατάλειψης του πολέμου, της καταστροφής των πόλεων και της απαγόρευσης έργων όπως η Μιλήτου άλωσης του Φρενίχου. Γιατί όχι μόνο η μεγάλη πόλη της Μιλήτου και όλος ο ανδρικός πληθυσμός της καταστράφηκαν από τους Πέρσες, αλλά και η τραγωδία του Φρενίχου που αναφερόταν στην καταστροφή απαγορεύτηκε και δεν ξαναπαίχτηκε ποτέ από τότε.
You worked using your own optics on concrete faces, masks, symbols taken from the ancient mythology. Which methods did you use to approach the subject?
Do you mean of the piece that's performed?
Yes.
I've always been interested in the poet Phrynikos, who was one of the earliest Greek dramatists.
I understand that.
But there's nothing left of his work except a few fragments. Well, there are more than 4 words. The 4 words of a tetralogy about Heracles, and there are other small fragments of other plays, the Phoenici, the Danaides, and so on. But what interests me most about him is that he wrote a play that was about a modern event that was the sack of Miletos by the Persians, and that he was fined for presenting this play and upsetting the audience, and the play was banned forever. And the other thing he did, which is very interests me, is that he introduced the female mask into Greek tragedy, the first female mask. And it seemed to me that maybe the 2 events were connected, that he may well have introduced the female mask in his play, The Fall of Miletos, because in a situation where all the men of a town are killed, as they were by the Persians, only the women are left to mourn the tragedy. So that was one of the things I was interested in exploring. And the second one was that I like to go to a space and initiate it. The piece I did last month in Austria was in a Roman amphitheatre where only death and blood had been. And I went into the space and tried to make it a space where theatre could be performed again by wrestling with the ghosts. But in this piece, it was on the site of where a theatre will be built. And I wanted to go in there, and what better spirit, I thought, to bring to the site of a new theatre built on an ancient design was to go back to the earliest dramatists we know in Greek, Phrynikos.
what's the role of theater and politics and the influence on on each other?
It's a very long and complicated question.
Just a few things.
Well, as I said when I talked about the inspiration I had from Phrynikos, what is very interesting is that he wrote a play about a modern event, whereas everyone else wrote about mythology. Now, what I was trying to explore was how do we use the resources of our art, our love of beauty, our need for spiritual sustenance in conditions of violence and war like we have today in the former Yugoslavia, for example. If Phrynikos were alive now, he would be writing about former Yugoslavia. And it always seems to me that one of the great inspirations from Greek drama is the idea for me of a mask. Unlike a human face, sometimes we look at things they're too terrible to see, or we say we cannot speak about them. But in Greek tragedy, we must look and we must speak, so that I feel it's important to bring our need for beauty to its most supreme test, bring it near to destruction and see if it still survives.
Η σκηνή του Αρχαίου Θεάτρου των Δελφών ήταν διακοσμημένη με ζωοφόρο που είχαν σμιλευτεί οι άθλοι του Ηρακλή. Κάποια τμήματά της σώζονται σήμερα στο Αρχαιολογικό Μουσείο των Δελφών. Μήπως θα ανακαλύψουμε πως οι άθλοι που ανακυκλώνονται θα στοιχιώσουν τους εργάτες του Ηρακλή, ή μήπως τελικά οι άθλοι τους είναι οι πάλι με το θάνατο και τη λύθη για να αποκατασταθεί ο Φρύνιχος στο φως της ημέρας.
Then the only shrine they sought protection from was Heracles', mine. Not all the Greeks, though, were steady devotees of the one who masters monsters, Heracles. Even Delphi's oracle advised the Greeks to flee. Not the advice you'd ever get from me. Appeasement of aggressors has been the fatal cause not just of the Persians, but your more recent wars. Athens, though, resisted, and my huge figure rose out of the swamps of Marathon to help defeat your foes.
Okay, let's now come to the problem of the presentation of the tragedy. Which were your first beginnings? Which shows, which Asian drama performances have you watched? Have you been part of?
I've been, my interest in Greek drama is from very young. I studied ancient Greek at university. I'm a classical scholar. I know ancient Greek very well. I've translated the Orestia of Aeschylus, for which the National Theatre brought Epidavros in 1981. I did a world premiere in Delphi in 1988 of my version of the fragments of Ichnephtes of Sophocles. So it's a lifelong interest. I did Aristophanes in Africa when I was living in West Africa. I did a Lysistrata. I've done translations of Aristophanes, Aeschylus, Euripides.
Yesterday at the press conference, you talked about theater and cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a few things about this relationship.
Well, I work in both. I write mostly for television, what I call film poems, and I like working in film because I can reach a large audience and speak publicly on important subjects. And there's a film going to be shown tonight at 5 o'clock of my most recent film, which is called The Shadow of Hiroshima, which was put out on August 6th to mark the 50th anniversary of the dropping of the first atomic bomb. And I like to work in film and I like to work in theatre, but they're very different. For me, they're very different media, and I use them both as a poet. I like to work with a mixture of images and words in film, but in theatre I give the words to actors. In the films I usually speak them myself. In the theatre I give them to actors. I use other voices than my own. I speak in my own voice in film and through the voices of others in theatre.
The theatre, it's a kind of a liberty for you instead of cinema.
No, I don't think either. I think they're both extremely formal disciplines. I think that you have to learn the discipline of both. They're both very disciplined arts, and you have to learn how to use them both in their own terms. You know, okay. I don't like filming my stage pieces. I don't like them. They look terrible. The Orestia that I brought here to Epidavros, when I see it on television, I think, oh, how terrible it is, because it's done for a big space, and you get a close-up of a mask, and it doesn't mean anything.
Club and lion skin, the god hero led them on to pulverize the Persians there in Marathon. Go to Marathon today and bend your ear close to the ground and listen. Persian fear, Persian panic, and their barbarian cries, seconds before darkness, seal their frightened eyes. In the village that was Varna, every night, you can hear the Persians shrieking, screaming in their fright, wading or trying to, through the marshy ooze, Greek mud weighting down their oriental shoes. The panic never fades, no matter if you pour tons of cement above the shrieks of war. You still can hear the panic, the shrieking wild and shrill. Under modern Marathon, the Persians panic still. Even in Athens, though no friends of Heracles, reactionary voices said Greek cities should appease. The appeasers were ready to let Ionia stay with no fellow Greek assistance beneath barbarian sway. Medizing appeasers banned the fall of Miletus and fined for his politics the poet Phrynikos. Though this poet wrote me 4 plays for myself, which I trust are on everybody's library shelf, showing my adventures for many years to come, even dare I say it, to the next millennium. And though I applaud he used Milesian scenes to sting the cowardly appeasers, I'm not keen on the means he used to do it. This Phrynikos, the first to bring on wailing women. And what's by far the worst, it wasn't the women sang the roles, but dragged up men. Greek drama was never the same again. Though he shamed appeasers with Halosis Militou for masking men as women, I'd have had the poet banned too. While I don't share the scared appeasers' view or their reasons for banning Halosis Militou, I believe that men dragged up as women undermined the military effort, so I'd have had him fined. The politics I approved of. What I found distressing was all those men in drag, all that cross-dressing. But, if I'm being honest, I have to confess, despite my reservations about men and women's dress, when the Persian envoys came once more to demand the earth and water that were meant to stand for our surrendered country, what did Athens do? She remembered Phrynikos' halosis Miletu, and with Heracles' help, wise Themistocles, Phrynikos' patron, beat Persian creeps like these.